Okay, we're going to go over a re-drill for a hole that had leakage, and this is the old procedure. It's a little more complicated procedure. That's why we've changed to a newer one, but there may be some project managers that prefer to run their project with the old procedure. With this, we're going to upload the new box. Again, select our correct COM port, name our project, the job, and the crew. We're going to indicate here 5054-1161 was re-drilled due to prior hole leakage. And at this point in time, we want to save this file to pending, because we will need to create a new hole and roll back the original hole. So I'm going to save it to pending and find our hole, which is right here. We're going to create a new hole. I'm going to zoom in to where we can see the hole number. Now I'm going to create a new hole. So I'm going to shot point tool, looks like a beer can, and I'm going to make a 0.1 hole, the re-drill hole, 5054-1164.1, and I'm going to place that hole right next to it, not on top of it, so that we can read both numbers. And as soon as I click once, it's important to go ahead and get our pointer tool so I don't create additional holes. So what we want to do is we want the newly drilled hole to be 1164.0, you don't see the 0.0, and we want the original hole to go into the 1164.1. So we need to find out who and when drilled 5054-1164. So I wrote that number down in the base here, and look up 5054-1164 right here. That's the original drilled hole at 205. I'm going to double click it. I'm going to click on more information. That's what the ... means. I can see that it was on German 3D, and Jacob F is the one that drilled the original. It says has leakage and will be re-drilled. So this is the original. Happened on 9/24 at 2:05. So I'm going to say OK. I'm going to write that down. Now I'm going to go to my completed folder and look for 9/24 and Jacob F. That's it. So I'm going to verify it. I'm going to view it, and yes, 5054-1164. And you notice it's the original hole with leakage. We're now going to roll back that information. So I've highlighted the batch that I want to roll back. It's going to warn me that if there are additional holes, all of the holes will change their status. So if I had 15 holes in here, when I roll back, all 15 holes will go back to designed, showing not drilled. Now, inside here, it just so happens that both of these holes were drilled on the same day with different boxes. It's a little bit easier whenever you have this saying 923 and this saying 924. But let's view this one here. I'm going to click resubmit, and this is the actual re-drill. The good hole, no leakage, the good hole, I'm going to make just 1164. Okay, as you see that both that hole exists now, so I'll submit it, and it's in there now. This hole, the original hole, I'll resubmit and change it to 0.1. Okay, now we've got both holes loaded here, and you can look at your times I'm simulating this so the times are very close together. But the first hole, usually drilled on a prior day, is now the 0.1, and the good hole is the 0.0 or nothing. Okay? So what we want to do is we want to go to the 0.1 hole. This is the abandoned hole due to leakage. So all I did was double click the hole, the line number, and I'm going to change the status to abandon, and it is now abandoned. Before we synchronize, because we made a manual change, before we synchronize we need to delete our sync file. So I'm going to go into my sync folder, find German 3D sync, and I had previously deleted this. So we would find our German 3D sync and delete it, and then synchronize. Make sure it's going into the correct folder, and the sync is done. We verify that it did not change back. As you can see, this hole is abandoned. And if I click on this, leave my cursor over it, it'll tell me that one's loaded. So we abandoned this hole so that it reminds us that we need to go out and shoot it manually. So on day 2, so we have gone out to the field to this originally drilled hole with leakage, and we used our shooter box to manually fire that hole. We're now ready to change that to manually fired, and as you see, it turned blue. Now before we move on to the next thing, we need to synchronize, but we just changed it manually, right? We just changed this hole manually, so now we need to delete our sync file. Now we can synchronize. After we synchronized, we're still looking here, and we see that we have not reversed the status. So we have the good hole as 0.0 and the bad hole as 0.1, and we've marked it as fired because we've actually gone out and fired the hole. And that's all there is to the old procedure for uploading a re-drill and switching the holes.